Hello people, so today we are going to see how to connect Raspberry Pi to the laptop which is running on Linux operating system using Ethernet cable. So these are the things required. First one is the Raspberry Pi. I'm using here version 3. You can use any version which you want. It comes along with a power cable, an Ethernet cable which is also called as a LAN, and SD card. The minimum requirement is 8 GB because the operating system itself is 3.4 GB approximate, so it's suggested that you use 8 GB SD card and an SD card reader, and obviously your laptop. So let's start. First of all, you have to insert the SD card into the SD card reader. So first of all, before putting the operating system, downloading and putting it in the reader, in the SD card, we should format it. So you have to right click on the SD card, format, and format it with the type FAT. The type selected is FAT here. So after formatting, you see that the SD card has been formatted. So we start by downloading the operating system. So this is the official Raspberry Pi website. I've included all the links and steps in the description down below, so you don't need to bother about writing this down, just observe it. So this is the stretch version of Raspberry Pi OS. There are basically two different operating systems which we can install in Raspberry Pi. One is the Noobs and this is the other one, that is Raspbian. This is better to handle and it is a lightweight operating system. That's why we use this one. So download the zip file. Here you can see that I've already downloaded the zip file. When you open the zip file, you will see that there's a 3.4 GB .img file. So this is the file which you have to write in the SD card basically. So flashing the operating system means writing this file in the SD card so that the Raspberry Pi will detect it. So for that I'm using the Etcher software. So this is the website. This is a freeware software which you can use for flashing the operating system into the SD card. So download this for your operating system. So here you can see that I've already downloaded this. So let's start with the flashing of the OS. So we run this software, select image. In this we select the .img file. The good thing about this software is that it's freeware and it automatically detects the SD card. So this 16 GB SD card has been detected, and then we click on flash. You need to give the password for authenticating it. So after that it starts flashing. So here you can see that the flashing of the OS is almost done. It is 98%. So after this it will take around 30 to 35 seconds for validating. Validating the operating system is kind of an important process, and after that the SD card will be unmounted and the OS will be flashed. So it will take around 30 seconds. This is quite fast. So if you see, this software is free and I feel that it is easy to flash OS using this software, and it's quite fast as well. If you see that, you will get a message notification saying that flash has been complete, so you can just close this software. So basically after flashing the operating system into the SD card, you will see that there are two different compartments created. One is the root fs folder and the boot folder. So as you can see that this is Raspbian stretch. The version of the operating system is stretch. So in previous versions you had to change the command line.txt. This file you had to change and you had to configure this before putting the SD card into the Raspberry Pi, but now you don't need to do anything like that. So you don't have to do any change in any of these files. Just in the boot partition, you have to create a new empty document and just name it as SSH. The extension should not be anything, it should be just SSH. The file can be empty, it can have any content, it doesn't matter. Just do this, and then you have to safely eject. While ejecting, you have to eject the root fs folder, not the boot folder. Safely eject the SD card. You can unplug the SD card and then insert it into the Raspberry Pi, but do not connect the Raspberry Pi to the laptop yet. So now we have inserted the SD card into the Raspberry Pi. We are not connecting the Raspberry Pi to this laptop yet. Before doing that, you have to make a few changes. First of all, this is the most important step because here is like most of the people mess it up here. So as we know that we are going to connect the Raspberry Pi through the Ethernet cable, so it will be a wired connection. So you have to go in your network settings, in the wired tab. Here you have to make these changes. You have to go in options. In options, you have to go in IPv4 settings tab, and this is by default automatic. So now we have to change it to shared to other computers. Just change it to shared to other computers and click on save. What you have to do is you have to reboot the computer. This is the most important step. So don't shut down, you have to restart the computer. So after rebooting the computer, you have to open the terminal and you have to install this software. This software is called as putty. So this is the command. All these commands and steps will be written in the description down below, so you can copy these commands while you're performing this procedure. So here you can see that the following package is automatically installed. So I have already installed this previously, so but you won't get this message. So after installing this software, now this is another important step. In your files, there's a folder called as computer. In this, there's a folder called as etc, and X11 is the name of the folder. This is the Xwrapper.config file. So if you see that this is a read only file, so you have to edit this file, but you cannot edit it from here. So for that, these are the few steps which you need to follow. So you have to use nano editor for this, and you have to type sudo to give administrator privileges. So etc/x11/xwrapper.config. So you can see that this file has been opened here. After opening this file, you have to this line will already be present here. It will be written as console. So instead of console, you have to write anybody, and below this you need to add this line, needs_root_rights equal to yes. After writing these two lines, you have to select Ctrl+O to overwrite the file, press enter, and then you have to press Ctrl+Exit. So after doing that, you will see that the file has been written here correctly. So this file will be used for connecting the Raspberry Pi with the laptop. After editing the Xwrapper.config file, you have to connect the Raspberry Pi to the laptop. So you should connect the Ethernet cable, insert the SD card, and then connect the power cable. After connecting the power cable, you can see that connection established has been displayed. So the Raspberry Pi has now been connected to the Ethernet. So after that, you have to open the terminal. So this Raspberry Pi, the Raspbian OS is not like any other usual OS, which after connecting it will just boot up on its own. So for that, you first of all we have to start the Raspberry Pi via command line. So for doing that, we need to find the IP address of the Raspberry Pi. For that, this is a command which you need to type. So here you observe that Raspberry Pi is the name of the device connected, and this is the IP address to which it has been connected. So you have to note down this IP address because you need to enter it into the configuration. So this 10.42.0.203 is the IP address. Since we are connecting it through LAN or Ethernet, it is 10 point something. If we are using Wi-Fi to connect Raspberry Pi, it will be 192 point something. So you should remember that. After doing that, you have to type this command to start the software putty. So in this, you have to enter the IP address which you noted down just now. Enter this. Keep the port number as it is, all the other settings as it is. You have to select SSH, make it sure that you have selected SSH. Scroll down. In the SSH tab, there is X11. So you have to enable X11 forwarding. We do this so that Raspberry Pi can understand that there are some GUI, like graphical applications. So if you do this, it supports graphical applications. If you don't do this, it will only support command line applications. After doing that, you have to open this. There will be a security alert. You have to accept this, and here, so by default, the username is Pi and the password is Raspberry. Everything in small letters. After doing that, you will see that there are a few comments written here, and then here you can observe that the terminal says pi@raspberry pi. So this is the first part. For the second part, if you want the GUI, like how we have it in Windows, so if you want a graphical user interface of the Raspberry Pi, that is Raspbian OS, these are the next steps which you need to follow. So first of all, you have to enter this command, enter the configuration file of Raspberry. So this is so in this interfacing, you have to go in interfacing and you have to select VNC. So VNC is basically a software, it's a viewer, it's a tool which will help in viewing the Raspberry OS in GUI form. So this is disabled by default, so you have to enable the VNC server. So here you will get the message, the VNC server is enabled. After that, we have to select finish. Any changes you make into the Raspberry configuration file, after that you need to boot the Raspberry again. So for that, you have to type sudo reboot. So it closes the connection and you will get the message that Ethernet has been disconnected. And then after that, you'll again get the message connection established. After you get the message connection established, you have to again repeat the procedure. So again, open putty, enter the host IP address, scroll down, SSH, X11, enable X11 forwarding and open. So this terminal is again here, Pi Raspberry. So again, this has been done. Now VNC server has been enabled. So you need to install the VNC server on Raspberry Pi module. Where the softwares or packages, whatever you install on this terminal, are actually being installed on the Raspberry Pi module. So this is the command. So it will take few seconds for installing. If it asks do you want to continue, just hit yes, that is why. So you have to install two packages on the Raspberry Pi. First is the VNC Server and the second is the VNC Viewer. VNC Viewer is basically the tool, the software which helps in viewing the GUI of the Raspbian OS. So after installing this, you again have to install another software which is VNC Viewer. So this is the command for that. So both the packages has been installed. After doing that, you have to write this command to start the VNC server. You have to type VNC server and hit enter. So for creating a server, since we are accessing, so basically this is remote accessing of the Raspberry Pi through the desktop using SSH. So you need to create a password of 8 digits for one server. So you can create it. You have to enter it again, and you can just hit no for this, and you can see that now a virtual desktop X desktop Raspberry Pi :1 has been created. So this is the virtual server on which your Raspbian OS will be, like the GUI will run. After this, you have to run this command to finally view the GUI. So xtightvncviewer is the command. Hit enter. So a small window here you can see has popped up where it's asking to enter the VNC server name. So this is the server name which you have to enter. This is the name. So Raspberry Pi :1. Hit enter. It will ask for the password. So enter the same password which you entered while creating the server. And this is how you get the GUI of the Raspbian OS. If you see, this is actually the Raspbian OS is built on top of Linux. So that's why you will see that there's a similarity between this window and the Ubuntu and all the Linux flavors. You will get a warning message that the default password has not been changed. So I advise you to set up a new password so that it's better for security purposes. So if you see, this is also like a same operating system as we have other flavors of Linux. So this is how you create the GUI. So congratulations, the GUI has been finally done, and that's how you boot up the Raspbian OS using laptop as the display screen. So here we used Ethernet as the connecting mechanism. You can use HDMI cable as well when you do all these things, all the procedure, and instead of using Ethernet, you just take the Raspberry Pi and connect it with HDMI to TV or something. You will just directly see this screen, that's the GUI. You will directly see the GUI here. So thanks a lot. Thank you guys for watching. If you have any questions or anything, you can just put it in the comment down below, and feedback is also approved. Thank you very much.